Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Hymers College webinar. I'm Shrinidhi and I joined Hymers in Year 4 from Hessel Mount School. I'm the current head girl and this year I'll be completing my A-levels in maths, biology and chemistry.
Hi, my name's Dane. I joined Hymers in Year 7 from St Andrew's School in Hull. I'm the current head boy and I'm studying art, drama and RE. We're joined tonight by our headmaster, Mr Stanley, and our head of the junior school, Mr Doyle.
We're also joined by Dr Bennett, who teaches maths in the senior school, is the current head of Year 8 and who will be head of Year 7 in 2021 to 2022. We're also joined by two of our current Year 8 pupils who will both introduce themselves.
Hello, my name's Kira.
Hi, I'm Guhan.
We're also joined by Mrs Julian, team leader of Year 4 in the junior school, and by two of our current Year 6 pupils who will also introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Charlie.
Hi, I'm Libba.
And thank you to the parents for the questions that have been sent in prior to this evening. We should be able to get through all of these in the time that we have available. If you haven't yet submitted but would like to do so, please use the Q&A function on your screen and the two deputy heads, Mrs Jackson and Mr Wright, will be responding to these questions on that function or forwarding them to us for inclusion in our discussion.
So we've had a number of questions about entrance testing, both for the junior school and the senior school. So we'll start by asking Mr Stanley and Mr Doyle to talk through this process and how this will differ this year compared to previous years.
Okay, good evening everyone. Thank you, Serenity. Thank you, Dane. Our entrance tests throughout the school really are designed to spot potential, and that's the potential not to pass tests or exams, but the potential to make the most of a Hymers education, really. We want to see young people with interests and passions and people who are prepared to have a go at things. In terms of preparation for the senior school entrance tests, we hope you'll work hard at school. We hope you'll get stuck in at school. The national curriculum, English and maths, is good preparation for this. Do your best at that. Beyond that, we don't expect any formal preparation for our entrance tests, but we hope that you would be the sort of pupil who wants to go out and buy puzzle books and complete those because you enjoy doing them. You should be developing strong reading habits, fiction and non-fiction. I hope you'll be reading good quality magazines like The Week, the junior edition of that, or Science and Nature magazines. If you play an instrument, keep practicing at it. That's really important. If you don't play an instrument, that's okay. Get out there, get lots of exercise as well. It's really important. So we're looking for potential and breadth in our pupils. And the senior school entrance tests really reflect those. So it's a question of coming in on 2 Saturdays towards the end of January, and in each case you'll have a short interview with myself or another member of staff where we will be asking you about your interests at school and your hobbies, what you like to do in your free time. We'll put you together in a group, socially distanced of course this year, where we'll observe you doing some problem-solving activities. There's an online aptitude test and there are tests in English and in maths. I'm sometimes asked the question, is it possible to fail the Hymers entrance tests? And you know, my usual answer to that is each year there are a few pupils whose performance in those tests in the round, and also from the written report that we receive from you from your previous school, all the indications suggest that we may not be the right school for you. It's really important that any pupil finds a school in which they may thrive and reach their potential. And as I say, occasionally we do come across pupils in that, in that category. Mr. Doyle, what about the junior school then, please?
Yeah, so as Mr. Stanley said, a Saturday towards the end of January, it'll just be one for junior school entrance. And we're calling that from this year onwards an assessment day. We previously called it the junior school entrance exam. As Mr. Stanley said, there'll be social distancing obviously in place for that. And it'll be very much done in a classroom setting, all about putting the children at their ease, really. That's absolutely crucial. The whole process is very supportive. The staff conducting the assessment day are very friendly. We're not trying to catch children out at all, but put them at their ease so that they can really show their true potential. The things that will be included as part of that day will be a reading comprehension, a small piece of writing, some mathematics, a problem-solving activity, And the children will also read aloud to me and have a chat with me. We could call it an interview, but they're only young, I think a chat. My final piece of advice really is to parents. If you are thinking of entering your child this year in for that assessment day in January, I would really recommend that you make an appointment to come and see me. That could be face-to-face, or if you prefer, it could be on a video call, and we could discuss how your child's getting on at their current school, and I can answer any questions that you might have about the whole process.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Kira and Guhan, you've both experienced the entrance testing for the senior school. How did you find the entrance test when you took it?
At first I was a little bit nervous, but all the teachers were really nice and calm. And when I went into the room, there was a clock on the wall that told me how long I had. So I knew not to rush and I knew to take my time and check all my answers through.
I also took the same maths and English test as Kira, but because I came from a different school, I also got to meet the headmaster, who at the time was Mr. Alston, which I found quite an enjoyable experience.
Thank you, Kira and Guhan. Libba and Charlie, how did you find the junior school testing prior to joining in year 4?
I was nervous before, but then my sisters comforted me, saying that it would be fine. When I met all the teachers, they were all so kind, and I wasn't nervous. My advice is just stay calm and do your best.
For me, I didn't do the entrance test because I came from Hazelmount, so it was a little bit different for me. So Mr. Doyle had all my information and all my maths and English things that I did in year 3 in Hazelmount, and he gathered that all up to make sure that I was on track for Heimers.
Thank you, Libba and Charlie.
So moving on, we've had several questions have come in about class sizes and how these vary at different stages of the school. I can start off to answer this one. In total, in the sixth form, we have around 200 students, and the average class size across all of the classes for both years in the sixth form is about 9 students. And also in the sixth form, we have mixed aged form groups, which have about 12, 13 students per form. I think the advantages of this is the fluidity that this gives the 2 years, especially for year 12s who are moving into the sixth form, and it's a new experience. It can be very comforting, I'm sure you agree, to have familiar faces around the school and in our junior common room where we are now. And I think it just really increases the engagement and the enjoyability of moving into the sixth form. In my subjects, the class sizes range from 5 students to 9. So I get to create really strong bonds with my peers as well as my students, and also getting more focus from my teachers as well because of the small class sizes. Srinidhi, you study different A levels to me. What are the class sizes like for you?
Well, maths and chemistry are the most popular A levels. So we have around 9 or 10 in each class. And in biology, we have 9 this year. And last year we only had 6, which was particularly good.
And Guhan, would you be able to tell us about class sizes in year 8? I remember that they differ a little from subject to subject.
In year 8, our class sizes differentiate from 24 people to 27 people, and there are 4 forms, A, B, C, and D, which means there are around 100 people in year 8.
And Kira, would you be able to tell us a little bit about how the classes are arranged from subject to subject? For example, are you taught in form groups all the time, or does this vary?
We are mostly taught in form groups, but for maths and DT, we are split into 2 classes of 2 forms. In DT, there are 3 sets, and it's just the register order. But in maths, we do a little assessment to see if we're in set 1 or 2, depending on what we got in the test.
And Libba and Charlie, the same question. Are all your lessons in form groups, or again, does that vary in the junior school?
Normally in year 4, there are it's below 20. This year there are 21 pupils in each class, and in year 5 there are 22 pupils in each class.
When we were in year 4, we had around 17 people in each class, and now in year 6 we have up to 26 people. And it's because loads of new people have joined from different schools all over, and everybody really enjoys having new pupils, and we all care and be kind to each other. And we also have the care code, which is something we all follow to be kind and to try hard.
Thank you. So we've had questions about the destinations of our sixth form students and the support that is provided to students in preparing for their UCAS applications. So I've just sent off my UCAS form and I feel that I've been fantastically supported throughout the UCAS process. I've applied to study medicine and my form tutor was particularly helpful in giving me advice, and also the year above, when I was in the form group with the year above, they gave me advice and support. My UCAS advisor was an Oxbridge advisor, as I'm an Oxbridge applicant, so he helped me to tailor my application to be competitive for Oxbridge. We also have a medsoc, and we support each other throughout the process, and I've gained a whole host of transferable skills through this, which has been particularly useful. Dane, how have you found the application process?
Well, it's been a bit different for me. I've just sent off an application for the New York University to study drama. So at first I was a bit worried about the different system to what my peers are applying through, which is UCAS. But through our head of sixth form, and who was my UCAS advisor, he had great knowledge about international applications as well as applications for drama schools. So I was comforted by the fact that my teachers had knowledge in all different areas of the university application systems, which made what I was originally quite scared of the foreign system quite easy and enjoyable, really. Yeah, so really well supported.
Thanks, Dane. Mr. Stanley, can you please share some information about the destinations of students from HIMARS?
Yes, by all means. But before that, if I may, I'd just like to say one of the most pleasurable parts of my job is actually in the autumn term when I meet all the year 13 students. I do the final check on their university application forms, or I have a discussion with those who've decided they don't want to go to university. And they really are an inspiring bunch of young people. They're so focused, and also, more importantly, they're thoroughly decent people. They go on to do all sorts of awe-inspiring things. They don't all go off to do drama in New York, but some of them do, and good luck to you, Dane. They don't all go off to do medicine, but quite a lot do what Surundi's hoping to do. We have a lot of people who go off to do business, economics and management, computer science, English, history, engineering, classicists. Some, will go off to leading art colleges as well. In recent years, popular destinations have been the London universities, LSE, London School of Economics, Imperial, UCL, the northern universities, the great northern universities like Durham, Newcastle, Manchester, Leeds, they're very popular. Warwick's another important one, Bristol as well. This autumn, we've had 6 of our students start at Oxbridge, either Oxford or Cambridge, doing a variety of courses. So, there's a huge amount of variety, really. And I do think it's one thing we do very well in terms of helping the young people prepare for the next stage of their life. And that's partly because of the small tutor groups and the expertise we've got within our careers department. But I think it's also the enrichment opportunities as well through activities like MedSoc, through the extended project qualification, through the sixth form lectures. They're really important elements. The practice interview evening that we've got coming up straight after half term that helps the students get ready for the interviews that they'll face. It's a great privilege in being in this role, particularly when you see successful, talented young people go off and achieve what they hope to do. It's a great thrill.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. On a similar note, a question has just come through on the chat. So the Results Plus 2020 document has a weighting towards students who have been successful in the sciences. How reflective is this of the school's outcomes at GCSE and A-level?
Am I taking this, Trinity? Very happy to. Okay, sorry. Really good question. I think the Results Plus document from last summer reflects the fact that a large number of our year 13 students were scientists, did go off to do science. Do the sciences punch harder than other subjects at GCSE? No, not at all, actually. Our students achieve in all subjects, really. I'm a classicist myself, so on the shelves behind me there's not a single science book. We've got great teachers in the arts subjects as well, and humanities, and those subjects are equally as cherished and valued. I can assure you of that.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley.
So one of the things that I've enjoyed most about Heimers has been the extracurricular activities that are available to students, and I'm most grateful to the many staff that have given up so much of their own time to support us in our endeavours. We've had a question come in about the activities that the students on the panel get involved in. So Charlie and Libba, what activities do you get involved in the junior school, and what is it about them that you enjoy so much?
Well, there's lots of clubs to attend, but I attend all of the sports clubs, such as rugby, football, cricket and swimming. Mr. Mills and Mr. Hodgson do those clubs, and they help you gain strength and interest in the sports. I also attend leadership club, which Mr. Doyle does.
And Libba?
I attend a different kinds of clubs that Charlie does. I do strings, choir, dance and drama club. What I love about strings is that you get to be creative with music, and we have Mr. Cousin who's really kind and he makes lots of fun rhythms for us. And what I love about choir is I just love to sing, and we do lots of competitions, which we do in Edinburgh and all over England. And I love to do dance club because I love to dance too. And we do lots of competitions like in choir too, and we have different costumes to do. And the last one I love is drama club, which you get to express yourself and you just make yourself happy.
Oh, thank you both of you. And Kira and Guhan, what do you two get involved in the senior school?
I mostly do sport because I really like the sport because we get so many opportunities and get to go on lots of trips. But I'm also doing something called Time Capsule Club, where we go and where we think about what's going on in the world, and then eventually we're going to put it into a time capsule and hide it along the school ground somewhere and open it up again when we're in sixth form.
I, like Kira, do a bunch of sports. I am involved with the rugby team, badminton, and basketball. But I also like to think of academic clubs as well. I go to quiz club, problem solving club, and STEM club, which is a science club. I love all these clubs because none of the teachers are pressuring you to be the smartest or the strongest in the room. They just hope that you have fun and learn something from it.
And Srinidhi, can you tell us about the interest in school and what you benefit from them?
Well, I'm quite involved in the music in school. I play in the wind band and the orchestra, and throughout my time playing in these, I've made several good friends, and I've also had the opportunity to play in various school concerts, which has definitely been a highlight of my time at Heimers. I also play in the netball first team, and that has been one of my most memorable times at Heimers. I still always look forward to playing on a Saturday fixture after a busy week.
For me, I get particularly invested in the drama department at Heimers and the annual productions that we put on. Last year we did Adam's Family, and it was Sweeney Todd the year before that. And I think it's just the talented and supporting community that I just get drawn back to year after year. It's really, really special. And Dr. Bennett and Mrs. Julian, would you like to add anything about the extracurricular program from a staff's point of view?
Yes, definitely. I think friendships in general come and go as you grow. And by making friendships through different activities, you tend to find that those friendships last longer and will stay. So I really recommend any pupil get involved in as many activities as possible.
It's also worth saying that we do have a priority timetable. We have a very, very full extracurricular timetable and lots of children who want to take part in everything. So we do have a priority timetable which makes sure that the children aren't put in a position where they have to choose between one club or another club. So one day would be a sports club day, then there might be a music day. We have lots of other clubs as well, like Lego club, board game club. So it's very, very wide, the extracurricular programme.
Thank you, you two.
Mrs. Stanley, we've received several questions on the theme of fees, how these vary in different parts of the school and the framework of the fee remission scheme. Please could you summarise the fee structure and how the remission scheme works?
Okay, thanks, Srinidhi. Well, I hope you'll forgive me for not going into precise details about fee levels. They're obviously on the appropriate website page, so I'd refer you to that. But I think it's worth saying that Hymas is obviously an educational charity. Not everyone is aware of that. Any surplus that we make is invested back in the school and in the education of our pupils. It doesn't go anywhere else. We've got no profits for shareholders or proprietors. That's an important point. The governors are really committed to offering excellent value for money, and so they're very aware of the sacrifices that our parents make in choosing to send their children to Hymas, and so every effort is made to keep fee rises to an absolute minimum. Surplus is spent on the facilities, on the new junior common room for the sixth form, the ICT, hopefully a new Astro next summer, new science labs. So we spend money on facilities and we spend money on the salaries of our excellent teachers. That's really important to us. The Hymas fee remission scheme is important to myself and the governors as well, because John Hymas in 1893 founded Hymas for the education of children of intelligence in the city of Hull and the surrounding area in whatever social rank it could be found, in whatever social rank, and that's the important thing. And it's through the Hymas fee remission scheme that we remain true to our mission. It's an unfortunate fact that each year we receive far more applications for fee remission than we are able to support. The governors, as the trustees of the charity, have a duty to make sure that we assign our fee remission fairly and appropriately. And so there are two criteria by which fee remission is assigned. First of all, fee remission is strictly means tested. We require full financial disclosure and supporting documentation. And again, the precise details of that can be found on the appropriate page of the website. And secondly, beyond the financial means test, there's academic merit as assessed through our entrance tests. So those are the two criteria by which our fee remission is allocated.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Dr. Bennett and Mrs. Julian, I have a question that's come through in the chat for you. How do you support children who may run into difficulties or challenges along their educational journey? And a bit about the pastoral support that we provide.
Every form has form prefects and a form tutor, and each child will see those form prefects and form tutor throughout the days, throughout every day. So if a child didn't particularly want to go straight to a teacher with their issue, they have the opportunity of talking to someone who's been through the same process and not so long ago had similar experiences to them. So they could speak to their form prefect, who would have training and know when to escalate any issues and so on. In regards to academic support, we've got sixth formers actually are in a position soon to start with our current year sevens, supporting them in regards to maths and English anyway, along with Mrs. Pettit. So loads of support throughout, loads of people who are happy to help. We have separate buddies also.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. And Mrs. Julian, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I'd just like to say, whilst we do have specialist teachers in the junior school, each class also has their form teacher, which teach, so for example, I'm a form teacher and I teach my class for all of their English lessons. All of the form teachers do the PSHE lessons, and as Lib has also mentioned, at the heart of the junior school is the care code, which covers all of the pastoral issues. So the children are taught regularly about that in assembly, in PSHE. Pastoral is really, really key, the pastoral care in the junior school. Academically, the teachers are very, very supportive. They're always on hand, but the children are of each other as well. They're very accepting of different abilities in different subjects. They're willing to help each other. And the children are willing to ask. They ask for help if they need it. There's no stigma attached to that. So it's very supportive.
Thank you. On a bit of a different note, a question has come in about the food arrangements at break times and lunch times, and whether the school has an in-house chef and whether pupils are allowed to bring in non-healthy as well as healthy snacks. Libra and Charlie, would you mind starting off by telling us what food you currently have in the junior school?
Our teachers always encourage the pupils to bring in a healthy snack, but I have packed lunch, so I'm not really sure what the school lunches taste like. So
well, for hot school dinner, there's such a wide variety of things to eat. There's lots of different things to eat, like cold food. There's a hot school, there's hot. There's a veg meal, and there's lots of desserts and lots of drinks for you to take.
Kira and Guran, what are the differences, if any, in the senior school?
We also, like the junior school, we are allowed to eat in the dinner hall. But during break, we also have the dinner hall because they provide different foods like breakfast kind of snack things like hash browns, bread, sausage rolls. And also during lunch in the LRC cafe, they serve paninis and pizzas, which change every day.
And Srinidhi, would you be able to describe the facilities that are available within our newly refurbished junior common room?
So the JCR has the same meals as the dining room, and we have the same meals at break as well. I know the hash browns and sausage rolls are particularly popular, but we also have some extras like various toasties with different fillings, and we also have a microwave now that it's been refurbished, and I know people like to bring in their own hot food to heat up. And yeah, it's recently been refurbished with different comfy seating, and it's very popular among us.
And Dr. Bennett and Mrs. Julian, is there anything that either of you would like to add to that?
Not really, to be honest. I think they've covered everything, but you're right. There's somewhere you can go to have your pack up if you have one. Go to the canteen, and again, LRC for different options.
Just worth saying as well that in year 6, to prepare the students for moving into the senior school, year 6 children are on a rota, allowed to go to the dining hall at break, to just that little bit of extra responsibility in choosing what food they can have at break as well. Obviously, they're always encouraged to have the healthy snacks, but they do have a long, busy day, so we do encourage them to have a snack at break time as well.
Thank you. We have another question that's come through on the chat. Mr. Stanley, what will the sixth form entries test consist of?
It's a really good question. We're almost certainly going to give applicants a CAT test, an online CAT test, which tests. It's an aptitude test which has a numerical element, a verbal element, non-verbal elements, and a spatial element as well. But predominantly, it's on GCSE results actually. Okay. So, and an interview with myself. Okay. So those are the various elements. We'll obviously go into more detail on that in the sixth form webinar, which is coming up on the 5th of November, I think, bonfire night. So sign up for that if you're interested.
And a follow-up for that one is, what is the cut-off date for finalising which A-levels that people can take?
Well, in reality, people do change after their GCSE results, and that's perfectly understandable. If it is that late, it has to fit within our timetable structure that we've already built. But, you know, we encourage people to make their choices reasonably early in the new year, but people do change their minds after that, and that's fine. They just need to keep in touch with us and let us know. And I know, you know, Mr. Prescott, who does the timetabling with Mr. Wright, they make every effort to make sure we can facilitate all the different subject combinations, and they do a great job on that, I've got to say.
Mr. Doyle, could I just ask you, what does a typical day look like? Like the start time and the finish time?
Oh, right. So the start time is 8 o'clock in the morning. And at that point, children, one of the options is to go to the playground in the junior school, but there's also the option to go swimming in the morning. So if a child perhaps arrives between 8 and 8:10, you know, there's time to go and have that swim before the start of the day. The bell is rung at 8:35. They'll go in and be registered by their form tutors, like Mrs. Julian was talking about, and then into lessons, or it might be a form period or an assembly, and then lessons. We have a morning break time for 25 minutes, and then a long lunch time of 1:20, which gives the chance for the children obviously to have their food, which is very important, but also to join one of the many clubs that the children have been talking about as well. So they're not rushed over lunch. And then the end of the day in the junior school is 3:40, which is 20 minutes before senior school and sixth form finish at 4 o'clock. So that just staggers the pickup times. We do on both sides of the school, junior and senior, have a homework club, which is free of charge actually until 5:30. And I think it's a really good service for pupils and their parents. So let's say the child's getting back from a fixture and the parents can't pick them up at that point. They can go into homework club or after a club, or just if pickup time at 3:40 or 4 o'clock isn't possible. So that's the structure of the day, really.
And Dr. Bennett, is there any differences with the structure for senior school pupils?
Very similar. First, you'd register initially at 9:15, and we usually have an assembly or form period until 9:15. And then first period usually takes us through to break. We have a 20-minute break time, 25-minute break time. Then you have lessons through to lunch, an hour and 20 minutes for lunch, and which again gives time for all our clubs. We've got so many clubs that you need that long break there to enable you to have some fun, do your clubs, and have something to eat from the various locations. And then different lessons through to the afternoon at 4 o'clock. And again, then there could be activities after school, and as Mr. Doyle has said, through till 5:30 if needs be.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. So, Mr. Doyle, we've had a question come in asking, how many students joined Year 4 from Hessel Mount versus other schools?
Interestingly, this year it was less than 50%. Normally, over the years, it tends to be about half of the Year 4 year group come from Hessel Mount. But we have a really sort of big push really from induction day in June when the children come through towards the end of their Year 3 year, and they spend the day with us and they meet their form tutor and their new classmates and get a little bit used to the routines in the school. And it tends to be a day that the children really enjoy and settles any nerves that they might have before the summer holiday. But we talk to the children at that stage that the ones coming from Hessel Mount obviously are coming up with lots of ready-made friends, but Heimers is a new school and we want them to broaden those friendship groups and include others. And the children and Mrs. Julian have talked about the care code, and that's very much at the heart of that in terms of care and kindness, supportiveness, and being welcoming to new people. Obviously, as the years go by, Hessel Mount finishes at Year 3. So as we go into Year 5, we have new entrants. They're all from other schools. The same into Year 6. I think Libba mentioned that Libba and Charlie's year group started off with 3 classes of 17, which had around about 50%, around about 25 from Hessel Mount. But now the year group is nearly 80. And of course, they've all been new ones from other schools. And as Libba touched on, they tend to settle very quickly and be very much kind of welcomed with a sort of budding and mentoring system that we have for all new children.
Great. And a question for Mr. Stanley from the chat. What is the annual intake for Year 7 and how is this split from Heimer students and external students?
Yeah, really good question. I wish I'd mentioned this earlier, actually. We don't have a set number. We don't cap it. It's about taking the pupils, of potential. And in some years, we'll have about 100. But, in quite a few years, we'll go into 5 groups. And we'll go into 5 groups of 25, so we will take the pupils because we've got the capacity to do that. We've got the flex.
Related to that, how many joined the 6th form from other schools?
Yeah, it varies from year to year, but this year we've had 11, I think it is. And, typically it would be between sort of 7 and 15. 10 in the last 2-3 years has been about standard.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Another question for you, Mr. Stanley. What processes are in place to ensure that those children coming into the senior school from a local primary will be given the opportunity to reach the academic levels expected from Heimers?
It's a really good question, that. My understanding of local primary schools is that they could go quite deep through the national curriculum in English and maths. And actually their English and maths level, the pupils that they're doing there are certainly more than adequate. If the pupils are keeping up and working well, they will be spending far higher percentage of their curriculum time on English and maths, those core subjects, than pupils in the junior school will be. I would suggest that Heimer's junior school pupils have a broader curriculum. I would describe it as richer, but the depth with which pupils are going into English and maths in the local primary schools, certainly will serve them well when it comes to Heimer's entrance.
Great. I have a question that I think Mr. Doyle would be able to answer, and then obviously others can chime in. Does the school bus leave at 4 p.m. or after the clubs that go on after the school? And also, is there a breakfast club for the senior school?
So now I'll probably hand over the breakfast club answer to the 2 Year 8 students. So junior school children don't go to a breakfast club beforehand. In terms of the school buses, so as I mentioned earlier, the junior school finishes at 3:40. Some of the children are going home on a school bus, and they are supervised up to the bus ranks, which is obviously important, and they're seen safely onto those. And then the senior school finishing at 4 o'clock means that the school buses leave at 4:10. In terms of late buses, as far as I'm aware, we have 2 late bus services. So the South Bank, which has a bus that leaves at 4:10, but another one that leaves at 5:40, actually. So that gives a chance for students and pupils doing clubs after school, or perhaps arriving home a bit late from an away sports fixture or musical event, something like that. They can get the late South Bank bus. And then there is also a late Pocklington bus, which leaves at 5:30, and I think travels through South Cave and up towards Market Wheaton and along to Pocklington. But over about breakfast club to the Year 8 students, I wonder if you could answer that, please.
I'm afraid I don't think we know quite. Or do you know, Kira?
We don't necessarily have a breakfast club, but if you arrive early, you're able to go to the LRC, and your friends will be there. You can just chat with them, or maybe get on with some work or homework that you may want to do.
Mr. Stanley.
I see Mr. Stanley with his hand up.
Please, miss, there's breakfast club. It's always been open from 8 o'clock. This term, for the first time, we've opened it up from 7:30. I don't think many pupils are taking us up on that offer, but we know that is valued by some parents who drop off early.
Thank you. Another one for you, Mr. Stanley. Do many pupils join partway through a year, or in other years, i.e. in Year 8 perhaps?
It's been a national trend, actually. It's not just with Heimer's. Increasingly, that does happen. And we've seen a lot join us in the last 12 months, mid-year. Those traditional entry points of Year 4, Year 7 and 6th form, as I say, nationally, there's been far more flux in the last 5-10 years than there used to be. And our experience at Heimer's would replicate that, and would suggest that that's true in this area as well. So we get pupils moving into the area from outside at all points during the school year, and increasingly we get far more coming into the senior school at the non-traditional entry point of Year 7, so years 8, 9 and 10.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. That's interesting.
A bit of a follow-up from that one for Mr. Doyle. Why is there such a big intake also happening in Year 5?
Well, we have had entry points at Year 4 and 5 and Year 7, and then the 6th form, as Mr. Stanley said. I think, again, in my time at the school, I've been 14 years at Heimer's, and there's been more children coming in after the beginning of Year 4. I mean, I would always recommend that Year 4, if possible, is the best time to join the school and have that full 3-year junior school experience and benefit from all the things that Charlie and Libba, Mrs. Julian have been talking about. But equally, those children joining the beginning of Year 5 or during Year 4 or during Year 5 or even the beginning of Year 6. I mean, actually this year into Libba and Charlie's year group, we had quite a large number of children joining at the beginning of Year 6. And I think it is, as Mr. Stanley said, just a sort of changing picture, different reasons. Sometimes it's relocations, sometimes it's parents looking at the primary school that their child is at and deciding that they'd like to move across to Heimer's at that stage. But we're very open, very welcoming. And as I said earlier, I'd really just recommend that parents, if you're not sure, give us a call and come and have a chat with me, and we can talk about all sorts of different options. We're very flexible.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Kira and Guhan, I think you'll be able to answer this one. And Dr. Bennett, you can add something if you'd like to. How much homework do senior school pupils receive?
Well, it's roughly around 2 pieces a night, but if you have 2, then one of the teachers usually lets you have the weekend to do it. And then you might have like the next one due the next day. But you do have time to make sure you do it, because I know I'm very busy after school, but the teachers always don't like worry about that, and they make sure they give you enough time to do it.
Want to add anything? Yeah, so they're usually about 20 minutes long, each piece of homework in year 7. And we've got a homework timetable that we, year 7 and year 8 actually, that we as teachers adhere to. So, and we try to be flexible and make sure, you know, we're very much aware that students are very busy outside of school as well. So they'll need some time to do their homework.
Thank you.
So we have another question for you, Mr. Stanley. Do the majority of pupils use school transport past year 7?
I'm hesitating because I'm trying to think of the answer. There's a huge amount of variety, and there's no set. We're about to do another transport survey actually, so come back in 2 weeks and I'll give you a definitive answer. I think lots of pupils in year 7 and above will dip in and out of the buses. It's a pretty extensive route. They'll use them on certain nights when they don't have after school activities, and you know, there's a huge variety. Sometimes they lift chairs, sometimes they're going home with parents. A significant, you know, those buses get pretty full, I've got to say. A good proportion of the school are using school transport you know, at one stage in the week, I would say.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Kira and Guhan, do you use the school transport? Do you have anything to say about that?
I have never used it because I come by car, but
I also go by car.
Okay, thank you.
I think
So
possibly
this is for both-
Libba.
Oh, sorry, sorry.
Sorry, Dane. I think Libba goes on a school bus. Is that right, Libba?
Yes, I do go on a school bus, and it's the one that goes to Swanland. And I usually go on a Monday and it's usually pretty full, but there's lots of people that you can talk to, and all the seniors are pretty friendly.
Thank you, Libba.
A question for Mr. Stanley and Mr. Doyle. Do you take pupils out of their academic age?
Really good question again. Yes, we do. We do consider it. I know, you know, it's not encouraged in the state sector at all, but it seems to me that every pupil is different, and there are all sorts of reasons why a pupil may be out of age, and so we certainly don't, you know, wouldn't turn our noses up at that at all. I've seen it work very often, very successfully in other schools, and I see it work here as well. I don't know if Mr. Doyle would want to contradict me on that or add to that.
No, not at all. I mean, I think if that decision has been made prior to coming to Heimers, then more than likely the right place is for that child to stay, you know, with that peer group moving through. Things like sometimes parents worry about sport, but actually sporting sort of governing body rules are very flexible in terms of in most of the fixtures that we play home and away against other local schools. We'd call friendly fixtures, and the age doesn't matter. It might be in a cup game, there might be some stricter rules in something like rugby, but generally a child out of age group is very happy and progresses through and does very well.
Thank you. Mrs. Julian, what did you have to change around the junior school day to day due to COVID?
Quite a lot initially. Obviously it went into lockdown, and then we had in the junior school, we had year 6 came back. A lot of the year 6s came back. It was a big change because we put up marquees. So the children, the year 6s came back and worked in marquees outside, which is obviously very different, very exciting. Coming back into school, we have bubbled the children. So the children are in a year group bubble. So they have main differences that the children will see is forward facing desks, rather we used to working in group tables, so we've changed that. Have a seating plan, so we know who the children are sitting close to in every classroom of every lesson. The playground and the field are all marked out, so the children have their own areas that they stay in as their bubble. We're very lucky that we have 3 separate entrances, so each year group have their own entrance, their own staircase, their own toilets. So lots and lots of differences, but I think Charlie and Nibble would probably agree, actually the feel in school is that it's the same. So yes, they're allowed in different areas and things have changed, but the day-to-day lessons and the feel of the school is as normal as we can make it at the minute. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And for Mr. Doyle, what is the turnover of staff?
Oh, well, my answer to that would be not very high, really. I think people come to Heimers and they come from all different backgrounds. We often have very strong applications from the state sector, and a number of the teachers, in fact, Mrs. Julian's background was state schools, mine was as well. They tend to come to Heimers and really love teaching here, and then perhaps love it so much that they bring their children here, like I did and like Mrs. Julian has done too, and Mr. Stanley as well, looking around the panel. But so actually, trying to think of the last time teachers have left, I think actually in the junior school it's been retirements actually. So we had Mr. Taylor, who had taught for 37 years. So he joined the school, I think, in 1982. We had Mr. Fitzpatrick, who left as our head of junior school sport. I think he'd been at the school 34 years. And Mrs. Sinclair, I think, was the other recent retiree who was over 30 years as well. So it's not sort of like a life sentence if you come and teach at Heimers, but they do tend to come and be very happy, enjoy really the special relationships really with the children, the fact that behaviour standards are very good. In the junior school, you can teach your specialist subjects, those subjects that you're really passionate about and you love, as opposed to primary, where it's teaching the full sort of 10 subjects of the national curriculum, and really get stuck into clubs as members of staff and trips. I think it's a really good place to work.
And the second part of that question is for you, Mr. Stanley. And someone asked, how long have you been with Heimers and where did you come from?
I'm in my 4th term at Heimers, so I arrived here in September 2019. Before that, I've been in Hereford at the Cathedral School there as one of the deputy heads. I've taught at Manchester Grammar School, Nottingham High School previously as well. So, and I knew what a great school Heimers was, as I'd been here with rugby teams and I'd been here on academic conferences before. So, Heimers has got a very strong reputation nationally, and so I was, it was an obvious place to apply to, and I was very, very fortunate and considered myself very lucky to have been appointed to be head of this great school.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. One more question for you, Mr. Stanley. What sports take place on Saturday?
Yeah, well, in the senior school, the major boys' sports are rugby, hockey in the 2nd term, alongside rugby sevens, and then cricket. And the girls are playing hockey, netball, athletics in the 3rd term. Tennis is a big 3rd term sport as well. We encourage people to come on Saturdays. Those people who are picked to represent the school tend to want to come, and we haven't had fixtures this term at all, but every Saturday more than 200 pupils in the senior school have wanted to turn up and do some sport, and that's fantastic, because yes, we want to stretch and challenge the best sports people, but equally, we want to encourage physical activity and exercise for life, and it doesn't matter what you do, but it's important that you're active. And I remind myself that as frequently as possible as I go through the other end of middle age, so we've got to keep moving.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. And on a similar note, is it compulsory for the children to take part in these activities?
On a Saturday, no, it's not. It's not. But as I say, we're in the fortunate position that actually those you know, we've got lots of pupils who want to take part, and those who are picked for teams, you know, want to turn up and play. There's very little arm twisting needs to be done, I've got to say.
I think a couple of others on the panel probably agree with me in saying sport has been a big part of my time here at Heimers, and it's something that I'll always remember.
So, Mr. Doyle, what is the deadline for junior school applications?
We don't actually have a deadline. I mean, there could be a situation where the week before the assessment day, if parents, for whatever reason, have made a very late decision, phone up and get the application form in, then we would slip their child into that assessment process. My recommendation would be to come and have that meeting with me, either, as I say, by a video call or face-to-face before Christmas, and to get the application in then. What that means then is that the parent's child will be set up on our sort of school database, and then that will trigger the various letters in January about the assessment process. And as Mr. Stanley said, we send off a reference to the children's current school as well. So really before Christmas would be my recommendation.
And Mrs. Stanley, are there any verbal or non-verbal reasoning tests for entry into Year 7?
The online aptitude test incorporates little elements of verbal and MVR stuff, okay? It's not the sort of thing I'd recommend preparing for, in all honesty. As I say, read some good books, get outside, do lots of exercise, do some maths puzzles, you'll be fine.
Thank you, Mrs. Stanley. So our last question tonight will focus on the students' favourite thing about Heimers. Libba or Charlie, what is the main thing about school what's the main thing that you look forward to the most when you come to school?
Mine's definitely the sport, because especially if it's rugby, because I'm more of a physical person. I love to get stuck in.
That's great, Charlie. Libba, what about you?
Well, probably when I wake up, I just have that rush of feeling that it's going to be a new day. I'm going to learn new things. I'm going to be with my friends and all my encouraging teachers. And one of my favourite subjects is maths. And we have really nice maths teachers, and they always encourage us to do really great things.
Absolutely. That's great, Libba. Kira or Guhan, what's the main thing about school that makes you happy?
I really like the English and the art, but also the sport is a really big part, because I remember in junior school we went on the sports tour, and that's one of my favourite memories as well.
Well, most of my friends live really far away from me, so it's nice to come into school and see their faces and to socialize with them, and also with the teachers. My subject, though, that makes me happy, probably math as well, to be fair. It's so enjoyable.
I didn't make him say that, I promise.
Yeah, and I still remember the sports tour from junior school that I went on, and that's still one of my favourite memories from Heimers. Dane, a slightly different question. Given that it's our last year at Heimers, what do you think that you'll look back on at Heimers with the most fondness?
Oh, it's a bit of a tricky one. I think besides drama, I'd probably say something quite unique to Heimers is the community spirit. Coming in day after day and just knowing that everybody around you wants you to achieve your maximum potential. And I think it's quite an inspiring and supportive community, which I'm sure you'll find the same as being a pleasure to be a part of. So yeah, the people just make it what it is. And that wraps up our live question and answer session. There are questions that have come into the Q&A function that we haven't had time to answer during this live webinar. So we'll publish a written answer to these on our open events page of the school's website at the same time that we upload this recording to the same site. I'd like to remind those of you watching who are interested in joining the sixth form that we'll be hosting our live sixth form information evening on Thursday, the 5th of November. So please sign up for on the open events page for that as well.
Also on our open events page, we have today uploaded 2 new videos, one of students giving a tour and more detail into life in the junior school, and the other of a tour and life in the senior school. Please do take a look at those after we've closed the webinar.
And all that's left to really say from us is goodbye, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thank you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.